Hello, everyone, and I hope you've been having a good time learning and networking. Please do visit our networking lounge to interact and discuss relevant topics with who's who of the industry. Now, for the last panel of the day, the topic is Rise of Digital Payments in KSA. We have carefully curated this panel to show many different industries. For this panel, I would like to invite Ambereen Musa, the CEO of SuqAlmal.com. Ambereen launched SuqAlmal in 2012, and the company has ranked second amongst Forbes' top 20 most disrupting fintech startups in the Middle East. Most recently, Ambereen has been featured on the Forbes Middle East's list of the top women behind Middle Eastern brands. She also holds an MBA from INSEAD. Also, welcoming Mr. Iyad Kadura, the Digital Director at Satco. Iyad has over 25 years of experience in product development, digital transformation, business consulting fields. He's worked with giants such as IBM USA, Saudi Aramco, Jordan e-government, Ministry of Human Resources and Social Development, Mobile, and most recently, Satco. Next on the panel is Mr. Mohammed Saad Musa, the CISO at IKEA, KSA, and Bahrain. Mr. Musa has a wide experience of over 18 years working with government and private sector, implementing and auditing different governance, risk and compliance, cybersecurity frameworks. As CISO, Mr. Musa has extensive experience to different digital transformation programs. And to moderate this panel, I would like to welcome Mr. Hadi Rad, the Head of Digital Solutions, CEMEA region from Visa. He is passionate to drive digital products innovation, rollout growth, and e-commerce, proximity, contactless payments, mobile wallets, mobile payments, or push payments. So over to you, Hadi. I hope you have a very good session, everyone.
Thank you, Mitsu. Thanks, everyone. So we've heard during the day, and we are all kind of agreeing that digital payments have been on a high growth. This is driven by many factors, right? Growth in e-commerce itself, we've been seeing that. The omni-channel experiences, user experiences that we're seeing, where digital payments are being adopted in face-to-face environments. Also, the set and forget trends of different on-demand services and all of that. On top, contactless payment and the trend of mobile payments, the ease and convenience of tap to pay. All of that has been going, and then came COVID that accelerated all these trends. New merchants have been coming online for the first time and adopting digital payments, as well as in new categories of spend by consumer. For example, in a survey commissioned by Visa, like 66% of users in Saudi Arabia mentioned that they had their first grocery transaction online during this period. And then there is this touchless behavior of consumers. They don't want to touch anything, and digital payments serve that very well. So I will be discussing all of those, as well as many other topics in relation to digital payments and the rise of digital payments with my esteemed panelists. Well, let me start with Muhammad. Muhammad, like as we are discussing, e-commerce and digital payments have been growing extensively, and COVID has only accelerated all of that. Like, what are the most important takeaways for businesses in developing strategies post the COVID-19 from a consumer and from a market perspective? What are your thoughts about that?
Perfect. First of all, we wanted to speak about our experience and what we are affected by COVID-19. That we are in IKEA are introducing a unique customer experience, because our customer is not only to come to our stores to buy a furniture, it's a unique customer experience, as I said. So they are coming to our stores to examine the Swedish food. They coming with their kids to play in our playground, and they are coming to know what is the new in the house and better lifestyle. So In COVID-19, of course, we are losing a lot of numbers of visitors to our stores, which encourage us to introduce this as a customer experience or new customer experience through our digital platform. So we are going to the new emerging technology like virtual reality to giving them the more feeling that they are still visiting our stores. So, and of course, we need to support more our availability of our digital platform. We need to improve our supply chain to meeting the customer expectations. During the lockdown, of course, we are facing a lot of requirement in our platform and the digital e-commerce. And this has made some challenges on us to introduce our platform and our customer expectation. So this is challenges, of course, move us more to more digital transformation and adapting with a new emerging technology like cloud computing and like virtual reality, as I said. So this is what we are facing during customers and increasing our digital presence through our e-commerce and our platforms. This is what is the takeaway and our major strategy during the COVID-19 and lockdown area.
This is great. Thanks, Muhammad. Let me switch gears to another type of digital payments, contactless. And I want to ask Iyad, you're in the transportation business, and contactless payments bring speed, convenience, security to the transactions. And we've seen lots of growth, especially with COVID. What are the strategies to make sure that the consumers in Saudi Arabia will continue using contactless payments beyond? And what's your thinking in that, especially given the convenience and the fit of contactless payments in the transportation business and industry?
Yeah, thank you. Contactless payments for sure are becoming a norm for many people. An interesting point, I was reading an article that US are not as far along as people would expect them to be in contactless, but obviously again, COVID has sparked some acceleration onto that. In KSA specifically, most of the cards being issued today have that technology enabled, and a lot of the stores as well as transportation stations that we're building. Now, public transportation in Saudi Arabia is still not fully rolled out. We should have our metro and our bus rapid transit systems in place shortly. We're looking at towards the end of the year. As a part of the strategy to make sure that consumers continue to use these touchless technologies, we need to ensure that the payment devices are enabled with that technology and are available in stations as well as buses. We need to also make sure that the limits on these cards are somehow easily changeable by the consumer as needed. A big segment of the customer base of public transportation have meta cards. So we want to make sure again that they're aware. So we need to have an awareness campaign for our customers to make sure that they end up using this touchless technology where needed. In transportation specifically, people want to save money, so they will purchase tickets or passes online if they're tech savvy and if they have that ability. But a big number of the customers are usually out there on the streets, laborers, lower income people, where they end up unfortunately not knowing about the online. So they need that ability to purchase contactless, and that's going to be key for us to bring them up to speed, make them aware of the ability to use that technology, and to make available the devices in all the stations and buses for them.
Indeed, customer awareness very critical. And on that, I would like to ask Ambereen, customer awareness and customer adoption is very critical for digital payment to continue growing. It cannot be with the same base of customers. The number of consumers using and adopting digital and online payments, whether it's through cards or through digital wallets, for e-commerce purchases, like it requires continued growth in the consumer base. What are your thoughts about that, and how can that continue growing, Amberine?
So my opinion on this is quite interesting because I think what we've been trying to hold for the last 5-6 years has suddenly happened. COVID, I know, has brought a lot of panic to the society, and but having said that, it's accelerated the digitization of society, which has been interesting. I think the human psychology and human behavior is, if you force me to do something and I have no option other than what you're trying to force me to do, people tend to adopt very, very quickly. If you go to Netflix and try and look for a phone number, you will not find one. But easily, they could have put a phone number here, and I can tell you they'll probably need thousands of call center to answer queries, because that's the habit you gave to the consumer. They've decided the only way we're going to serve our customers is through chat and through emails or through support, which is all online. Nobody goes out and complains there's no phone number. They all go through, because they're forced to do so, they go through the actual channels that the company is out there offering. So I think the psychology of COVID, where people were forced to do online purchase, you would have seen, which is what brought the whole online explosion. And we did a very interesting survey, especially in financial services, where we found out that 65% of customers who tried to purchase a financial product for the first time, because they were forced to, they couldn't go to the bank, they couldn't go there to do transfer, they were forced to move on online banking, they were forced to actually apply for a credit card online, forced to purchase the insurance online. We saw an increase of 30% per day in terms of sales of insurance products during the COVID period. And because they were forced, 65% of them said, actually, now that I've tried it, and if it wasn't for COVID, if it wasn't for me to be forced, I would have never tried it, because I was used to the way of doing things. So I didn't need to go out there and search for it. And now that they have, 65% of them would say they will continue to do so. They're not going to go back to what they used to be. So I think psychology plays a huge role, and what habits you give to the consumer plays a huge role in actually bringing that adoption in. The second thing is, which was very interesting, I was speaking to the previous CEO of Namshi not long ago, and I think I love their refund process, and you feel, and it was interesting because I was talking about, most companies out there, they try and make the refund process so hard in the spirit of, if it's too difficult to return, people won't return. What they completely missed out on was the level of trust you can build in a consumer for them to adopt it. You will see a lot, we talked about abandoned carts earlier on. One of the reasons of abandoned carts is people are scared. I'm going to put my credit card in there, but what happens next? Namshi has done an amazing job, and similar to Amazon, but I thought Namshi was one of the areas I thought was done really, really well. The refund and return process takes 3 seconds to go through. You go in, you choose the product, you say, you don't even need to give a reason why you're returning it. And because of that concept, and consumers tend to go, it's okay, I can refund anyway. But how many really eventually return? But the trust was there. I can if I want to, the option is there. So I think that trust level, which most e-commerce companies I've seen completely missed out on, because they're thinking it the other way, saying, oh, make it difficult so they don't do it. Actually, the easier you make it, the bigger your basket size, because they are ready to take risks. Let me try that. Actually, eventually, otherwise, it's too difficult to refund. I won't try that. I won't take that risk. So I think these are a couple of components to actually bring people on board, from psychology to I think at the end of the day, it's a lot to do with the trust level. And forcing a certain behavior on the consumer.
100% habits, trust, very important aspects, Amberine. Thank you for sharing. I want to dig a little bit more into one topic. Amberine touched on it, but I want to dig on it more with Muhammad, which is cart abandonment. Probably in the physical world, cart abandonment is not something we can track very much, like especially if we're talking about IKEA, or very, very difficult to track cart abandonment and the reasons for that in the physical world. But in the digital world, that's something that can be tracked, that's something that can be analyzed. And I wanna ask Muhammad about his thoughts about that. What has been noticed? Is, like, for example, authorization failures? Is it friction? What's your perspective on different things causing cart abandonment online?
Perfect. As you said, the customer expectation is become more and more when they are coming into the digital world. They don't want to touch anything, as you said. So all e-commerce companies are targeting the minimize the checkout time. Okay, the more checkout time, the more a customer is not meeting his expectation, or the more he become not satisfied about his experience or the purchasing process itself. So when we are talking about the customer satisfactions, it's about doing or finishing the purchasing process in a less time. And this is what we are talking when we coming into some security aspect like authorization or tokenizations. And to make it more easy, tokenization is sending secure data or confidential data in a secure manner to the system. So this is sometimes take time, or sometimes it's failed. And this is reflecting in a bad way to the customer experience in our digital platform. So this has come to the Digital Transformation Committee, how they can introduce the more checkout time, the more or to reducing the checkout time in order to achieve more customer satisfaction. And in the most e-commerce websites, we found this is just integrated with a loyalty system, integrated with the purchasing process, and also for this. So I think in the near futures, we can see more emerging technologies that can reducing the checkout time and reducing the authorization failure coming from the cart itself. We are talking about the blockchain, and everyone is touching the digital transformation now, is speaking about the payment through the digital platform, through the blockchain technology. And I think this will be a huge advancement when we are speaking about the blockchain inside our platform and payment process.
Indeed, technology is like moving very fast in this. Like, I think there are 4 points during the customer journey that deserves lots of development and improvement in terms, to your point, speed, pace of the transaction, as well as friction. Like provisioning, at the time of provisioning my card information,
exactly,
at the time of checkout itself, one-click checkout, customer verification method, and sometimes the friction of OTPs, as well as authorization. All are areas really that require improvement, and technology, to your point, tokens and other aspects are helping a lot. Great points, Muhammad. Ambreen, back to you, Ambreen, and in particular in terms of bringing in like customers to do more transactions. Are we using enough data to analyze behavior? Are we leveraging all this wealth of data that we have in digital in order to have customers adopt digital payments more and more? Are we leveraging all of that? What's your thoughts on that?
So I think getting customers to do more transactions is one thing. And I think a lot of times you'll see, and I've seen this in the business as well, the customer will do a first transaction and then never come back again. So I guess your question is, how do you actually get them to come back more and more and more? And I think, as you were saying, trust is a big thing, but more than trust, if the customer has done a transaction once and you see where they're going through the website or through the online portal, there is so much data you can gather around this particular person and in terms of the behavior that we use. And I think the online channel is a fantastic channel to allow us to capture data. I've always been fascinated though, about the question is how many of us and how many of the traditional companies who are trying to go very much towards e-commerce, they have a wealth of data, and we're all going down the path of, creating big data. We talk about this a lot. We talk about data warehouses, but how much of us are turning this data into actual information? This is a big question mark for me today. I think the power of the data, of how you can then start segmenting your customer base, but the most important thing, which I call mass customization, what is the trigger point of this group of people who've got very similar backgrounds, similar adaptability and adoption of the digital channel? What is the trigger that makes them come back? Was it the checkout process? Was it discount? Are they price sensitive people where, you know what, I will pay online just if for me to get a discount? I remember we tried a year ago, we said, okay, we're going to give 15% off if you purchase online end to end, because we have a huge call center, which is very costly. And we were trying to move people, exactly like you said, they would start their journey online, but they would never complete it online. The moment they go to the cart, they stop, and they needed a phone call to make them cross that path, right? So when we started analyzing data to understand why, and can I bring them back and completing, we even did a discount factor of 15%, and we had 1% of customers take it, right? Which just shows you that was not the trigger, that was a mistake. And we didn't actually analyze the data to understand. It wasn't the price that was bothering them. It was the trust level of, will I get my policy once I pay? But otherwise I need to speak to someone. Mm-hmm. I want to speak to someone before giving that money away. So it was very, very interesting. And I think that's where data becomes extremely important. And data can be used and can be taken from multiple ways. You can do focus groups. You can talk to your customers. I still call probably 10 of my customers a month just to get a feel. And unless you talk to the customer one-on-one, just to get a feel of what are they thinking? Especially I talk to customers who did not close. Why did you not close? And the feedback, and even that is data. It doesn't have to be in an Excel sheet, right? It's data around customer behavior.
Indeed, and that's the secret source of success of many of the global digital platforms that have been increasing usage. Think Netflix, for example, in terms of how do they predict what's the best next movie for you, and then you purchase that movie, and so on. Like lots of examples in this regard.
There's that feeling of loyalty when a company literally understands you, and it's giving you content and information that you want.
Indeed. I want to switch gears again to another topic in relation that's very much needed, whether Iyad or Muhammad, and you're operating in traditional businesses that are getting more and more into digital and digital payments. For example, I want to ask Iyad, transformation in the transport sector, right, could sometimes be challenging, right? Customer experience is quite critical, especially in a world where digital dominates. How can organizations accelerate their digital transformation agendas and design digital customer journeys to offer superior customer experience? Very much needed, especially when it comes to payment. What's your thinking about that? How can organizations accelerate that process?
Sure. Obviously, everybody's talking about digital transformation these days. One of the most important topics in digital transformation and digital products and services is the customer. I mean, there's no doubt that whether it's the Amazons, Netflix, the Nemshis, etc., are very focused on the customer and the customer personas. So it's not enough to just know your market and know your general customer base. You really need to dive deeper into the customer personas, the customers that you are targeting, the ones that make up the bulk of your customer base, and build some journey around that that's safe, easy, friendly, comfortable. So, for example, in transportation, as I had mentioned, a lot of the public transportation customers usually are the ones that want to save some money, and they don't want to take a taxi, or they don't want to, potentially don't have the ability to own a car, etc. So they are conscious about saving money. In essence, when you talk about public transportation, you have ways of purchasing tickets today, especially when we are going through the transformations we're doing. SAPCO is doing a very big effort in transforming the traditional public transportation to become more digital, using applications, using even platforms that can be accessed through online mechanisms. The issue we ran into when we studied the customer base, and we understood that the bulk of our customer base was the lower income. They don't have credit cards. What they have are debit cards. And hence, when you bring an app to the market that is very effective in storing credit card information without the cumbersome journey of having to re-enter them every time, as transportation requires multiple trips in a day versus a retail purchase may be done once a week or whatever. So you want to make sure that the customer, in this case, doesn't have to keep re-entering their credit card information, and that's available. You can tokenize credit card numbers today in Saudi Arabia, save that information securely and safely, so the customer can make multiple transactions easily. When it comes to those lower income customers that don't have credit cards, you have to then provide that ability using the Meta card, the Meta debit card, which today is still in the process of becoming tokenized. Some payment service providers have already been certified, but many haven't. So, but in this journey, the customer will abandon you if you are trying to give them a way to purchase the ticket online, but they have to re-enter their credit card information. So that's one very important aspect, and we need to make sure the customer journey is easy, safe, and comfortable for the customer. So they can repurchase, and you have them with you all along, and they can continue to become a frequent purchaser of these online tickets. With that said, there are also some other innovative ways. We've been thinking about products that are around finance, yet you bring them to the customer of a transportation network. So whether it's through some kind of a wallet, you have a lot of these customers that are lower income, but they do a lot of transfers. And so you can place some innovation around that to bring some additional financial services to a public transportation customer. So you keep them give a sticky feeling to the digital payment and the digital channels for them. That's basically what we're looking at in terms of a strategy on the customer journey.
This is great, indeed. That's very much important, the mapping of the end-to-end journey and what stages can be digitized to address friction and the user experience.
Just one point I just wanted to add it here is because we are tackling a digital transformation perspective, and this is a huge challenge from security perspective, which is my field actually, and I cannot leave the sessions without speaking about the information security rule in digital transformation, because now everything is becoming the network, and the customer expectations expected that everything is happening in just a moment. Okay, we are speaking about big data.
I think
effect,
yeah,
and we are speaking about network effect and bringing a lot of challenges in information security. So we have to consider the information security and the privacy aspect of our customers into considerations in any emerging technology that can be adapted by the digital transformation. So a lot of, if I'm a member in a digital transformation committee, they bringing a lot of new technologies, a lot of initiatives, without considering what is the privacy aspect and the rule of the information security. And this is what I just want to mention, that contacting with the new emerging technology, especially in the digital payment and in a new payment method that we are introducing must be very, very secured and must be also in assuring the privacy of our customers. Thank you, Ali.
Good point, Muhammad. And actually, we have a few more minutes that I want to try to take some of the questions. And the first question that I'm seeing here is very much related to what you're talking about. But let me ask it again and see if we have different perspectives on it. Like adding security, more security layers might mean more friction. So how do you find in digital the right balance between security and the customer journey and the perfect, where's the sweet spot in terms of the perfect customer journey? Any experiences in that, any feedback to share? That's a question coming from the audience.
Should I answer that? Me?
Please go ahead, yeah.
Yeah, thank you. This is always about the trade-off of security and operational wise, okay? Because as we said, customers have some experience now from visiting our digital store, okay? And they have a high margin of expectation, okay? So he wanted to make everything in just minutes. And when we are speaking about security, all of this security should be implemented behind the scene, because he must assure that when he enters this e-market or e-commerce platform, he must be secure. His data is in secure way. His financial data about his card and payment method can be in a secure journey. Since he join or he log in our website, till he finish and check out from this one. So this is always a challenge for security people. How make this process is easy, friendly, and secure. And we should consider that, but we should not trade off security in sake of or for sake of operational wise, okay? So this is a balance we should, as information security leaders or specialists, should be considered in our operations.
Yeah, and actually technology is helping in this regard. Like, let me give an example. For example, 3D Secure or the one-time password in e-commerce, right? This is introduced for the purpose of security, but it is friction, like receiving that prompt to enter the one-time password is friction in the customer experience. So now technology introduced, now there is a new type of customer verification method, risk-based authentication, where analysis about the transaction happens in the background, and only in very limited cases, the consumer is prompted for a password. Otherwise, the transaction goes uninterrupted. Other technologies that are helping are biometrics. Like consumers are using their mobile devices. So one way of verifying the consumer in a much seamless way than passwords is biometrics and so on.
Yes, I believe that blockchain technology will bring a new horizons of authentications, because will reduce the fractions of time for authentication for users. So let's see.
Another question coming from the audience, data-driven approach. Do you think this approach can be applicable to countries which have not reached digital maturity? Probably Amberine, because you touched on that topic, maybe you can comment on that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Look, as I was saying earlier on, I think data-driven approach doesn't necessarily mean online data. The more mature the market gets, yes, the more sophisticated it gets, the more predictive analysis you can do, and the more mass customization you can do, right? I remember the time when, when retargeting recently started, and you would go on a site and look at a pair of shoes, and then the shoes follow you every other's website. And that was a big thing at the time. And they would follow you everywhere you go. You see the same shoe, you go on BBC, on CNN, on Facebook, wherever you go, it's the same shoe that you just looked at and you didn't purchase. And eventually you go back to purchase it. Data-driven approach can also be done, as I mentioned, offline. So talking to your customers, doing focus group, asking questions. The old times we used to ask questions around how did you hear from us, or eventually have a survey at the end of the transaction. where did you hear from us? How was your experience? If you had to rate it from 0 to 10. There is a very, very interesting methodology called the Net Promoter Score. And I don't know if you've heard of it, but it comes from Bain, and I used to work at Bain at the time. That was an incredible power because it was it's a one number that you use, and you ask the customer from 0 to 10, what are the chances and the probability that you'll promote this product to your friends and your family? And only the 9s and the 10s are promoters, which means they will actively go out there and talk about it. But the feedback that gave to insurance companies, banks, and different companies around how many of their customers who purchased from them would turn around at a dinner table and say, hey, you know what? I just got my card from HSBC and it was amazing. They're called promoters. That is a very, very strong number. It's a one number and it's done. You can even do it offline. But that's a data-driven approach. Based on that, you can then understand how many of your customers would promote you and how many would tell everybody, do not go there. That's, I would say, the basics of it. So yes, data-driven approach can be done without, even in countries that haven't reached digital maturity.
Great, thanks, Amberine. I think we are out of time, but anyone would like to share any final thought, or we're good? I think it has to be very quick because we're out of time. Any final quick comment? We're good? We're good, perfect. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Muhammad. Thank you, Amberine. Thank you, Iyad, for your time. I hope it was an insightful and exciting discussion for everyone.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all the panelists, and thank you, Hani, for such an insightful session. I request everyone to please visit our networking lounge to interact with the industry on some very relevant topics and make some meaningful business connections. I would also like to thank Visa, our exclusive payments partner, and Teller, our associate partner, for showing massive trust in our capabilities. As previously mentioned, the theme of 2020 DigiPay is the future of digital payments. And I hope the Saudi edition for the DigiPay Summit has delivered on setting the right narrative for digital payments industry going forward. We hope you've made some good connections, learned something new, interacted with colleagues and industry peers through this virtual event. I will end DigiPay with a thought. Studies show that if the global digital payments market continues to grow at the same rate, it is expected to reach a massive $6 trillion by 2023, proving that a robust and secure payment infrastructure is not only the need for the hour, but quite possibly would be the majority contributor to the success of companies in the future. So here's hoping for many more editions of DigiPay Summit by Khaleej Times. Just a reminder, the networking lounge is open for making business connections. Thank you everyone for attending and being a part of the summit. And thank you all the panelists.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.